Trump supporter. Anyway, this gentleman has been in the middle of some things, and he might be getting arrested right now in front of us as the police make a run after him. We're going to head on down the street, and it looks like he's being arrested.
Yep.
Hang on.
Thank you. Yeah, we know at least one person escorted out of that convention center. Protesters on both sides, though, swarming the area, and police doing their best to keep them apart, but that is not stopping them from starting a war of words. And 10 News reporter Astrid Solorzano is live in the thick of this anti-Trump movement. Astrid, how's it look out there?
That's right. I'm very much inside now. People say that there's been tension spewing since Trump announced that he was running, but as of right now, probably 2 minutes ago, all of the anti-Trump protesters ran towards that crosswalk over there. Currently, there's a line of possibly maybe 20 to 30 sheriff deputies who are going to go to try to take control of what's going on. It seems to be that there was something involving one of the people who run the trolley, and then I've seen so far 2 people taken into custody. There's something definitely going on over there, but if things are now getting a little bit bad, things before a couple of hours ago, there was a lot of tension, a lot of anger from anti-Trump protesters. Bethany Unwin, who was very upset, she was right there. She said that she was walking to work, but then saw all of the anger and hate that was being spread. She says she's embarrassed people are using Trump as an excuse to divide people. Now, there were several groups that are anti-Trump protesters that were supposed to stay in their collected area to try to keep the peace. But just like I said 2 minutes ago, all of this definitely changed. Now, if you take a look, there are all of the sheriff deputies who are trying to circle the group, trying to contain what happened. So far, the information that I do have is that it was involving someone who controlled the trolley. I think there was a lot of tension. I just recently saw 2 people taken into custody. I asked one of the gentlemen, he seemed to be between his 18 and 20 years old. He said an adult just came and hit him in the face, and it seems to be that he was taken into custody. Now, hopefully, sheriff deputies along with police and other law enforcement try to contain this area. We will keep you updated as much as we can on the situation going on right here. Reporting live downtown, Astrid Solorzano, 10 News.
Yeah, and we can actually see people in your shot, Astrid, holding up their phones, taking pictures of whatever that skirmish or disturbance is. So we'll keep an eye on that. Obviously, we see the protests, we see police on the other side of me. Protesters out in force, police out in force, but so are Trump supporters. Let's go live right now to 10 News anchor Itika Milanes. She's watching a huge turnout on that side of Harbor Drive. Itika.
Yes, we're on the other side of where Astrid was just a second ago. All the sheriff's deputies that you saw, they're now in formation. They are preparing to do something right now. In the last 10 minutes, all of a sudden, violence erupted here at the Trump rally. These people have been here for hours, some of them all day, but all of a sudden, just 10 minutes ago, we saw several fights. I personally saw 2 people get arrested and saw a couple of bloody noses out here as well. If you can look on this side right here, this is the anti-Trump side. This is the pro people here. More activity. People are a lot more vocal on the anti-Trump side. We're hearing that they came from LA, Orange County, even Mexico. They've been chanting all day, waving that Mexican flag. A lot of signs with vulgarities on them, stuff we can't show you here. These officers are MMF. They have been trained specifically for this kind of thing. They are prepared for anything that comes their way. They have the pepper spray. They've got their face gear here. They've got batons. And take a look. They are ready to arrest anyone if they come their way. We're going to send it back to you in the studio.
Thanks, Itika. We've seen other examples, of course, in other cities of police having to use the pepper spray. Have they had to use any of weapons at all on them? Have you seen that at all?
As far as I know, we have not seen anything yet. We haven't seen any officer having to use any kind of force except to handcuff and arrest some people. Our station, Channel 10, gave us this protective gear in case we were stuck in the middle of anything, but so far nothing has happened. If you look over here, we are hearing something happening right over there. Can't quite see it, but officers are heading that way. Let me see if I can get a better look.
Yeah, and this is the same
For some reason, the
area.
crowds are heading that way, and the officers are too, right behind them.
And
Go ahead,
curious, Itika, you said that you saw some fights happen yourself. I'm curious, was this supporters versus protesters, or just protesters versus police? Could you even tell?
You know,
Okay,
it's
sorry,
hard to
folks.
say, Ann, because they were on the other side where we are. They were in the anti-Trump side, so it's hard to tell if there were some people on that side that just got into it, or if they were anti-Trump just getting into it with one another. Hard to tell from this vantage point.
All right, Itika, thank you very much. We're having a little bit of trouble hearing you, but we do understand that we want to move right on to Emily Thode, and she is live for us. She was watching protesters who marched from Chicano Park to the convention center. Emily?
Yeah, so we're right here. This is another angle of what's going on. So the majority of people where I'm standing appear to be Trump supporters. They're out there yelling USA, USA, USA. We had a bunch of Trump supporters that have left the Trump rally, and they came around to this side and clashed with the anti-Trump protesters. So we do have some police officers going in there trying to straighten things out. It's hard to tell what's going on. We have seen several skirmishes break out. We did see some of the protesters rip apart Donald Trump pinata, trying to throw that at police, throwing some water bottles as well. So it seems like right now they're just yelling. It is getting heated, though. There's a lot of tension out here. Jeff, I'm going to have you pan over here to the right. You can see we have San Diego police officers out here in the riot gear. They're starting to inch closer and closer. So we're standing right here on 5th, and we are right at the heart, right at the beginning of the gas lamp quarter. So that's the scene out here right now. It is not ending anytime soon. It does not appear to be that way. I'm live in the gas lamp. Emily Thode, 10 News, back to you. Emily.
Let's bring in CBSN political reporter and Republican strategist Leslie Sanchez now. She is in Los Angeles and joins us from there. Leslie, we just heard from Carter there about the scene in San Diego. Are Republican leaders worried about how these events might play out as we start to look ahead to the general election?
Absolutely. I mean, nobody wants to see any type of violent interaction. You certainly want to see engagement, and I think that's what you're seeing here. And I think one thing that we may not hear a lot about, but we should give kudos to Mayor Ken Faulconer and the law enforcement team in San Diego, because you're right at the California-Mexico border, and the passions have been heated there going back for at least 2 decades, probably much longer than that politically. So it's a community with a strong voice, a lot of innovation, a lot of great leadership, and it still managed to have a very, vibrant rally and protest without a lot of interaction and violence. So I think kudos to the team there. And if anything, hopefully the temperatures will calm down as we move forward.
And Leslie, we were talking earlier about the Hispanic vote, and I want to talk a little bit about that because California has the largest Hispanic population of any state with over 14 million Hispanics there, and San Diego right there on the border with Mexico. What is the general sentiment then among voters?
Well, it's certainly a Democratic stronghold, not only among just non-Hispanic voters, but certainly among Hispanic voters. And what's interesting, if you look at the optics of that, you've got these Mexican flags flying back and forth, but they're only a couple of miles from the actual Mexico-California border. So it does become a confusing optic in terms of where is your loyalty? What are they trying to say? Is this trying to promote Mexico, or is this trying to say we don't like the tone that sounds anti-Mexican? And that's the challenge of carrying a flag that's not from the United States. Inside that rally were Hispanics as well inside the Trump rally who do believe in strong border enforcement, who like the leadership style of Donald Trump, and you're seeing it across the country. But in California particularly, it will remain a blue state, and it's a very active state. You have more democratically elected officials, statewide office holders, and they really are the leadership for the rest of the Democratic Party. So it's a very different case in California.
Leslie, as far as the images that we see on the front page of newspapers and on the home pages of websites here during this political season, you know, Donald Trump is the one that draws these types of protests at all of his the majority of his campaign stops, and you don't see that within the other candidates. It obviously, I mean, as far as how this plays out for the rest of America, is it a good or bad thing?
You know, it has the potential to be a really important, good thing for the Trump campaign, especially if the opposition is holding Mexican flags. That is not empowering the left or the Democrats. It's really dividing the country even more, and it makes the case for Donald Trump. And if you heard some of those protesters, they're like, go back home. You know, those kind of things. And the biggest applause line within the San Diego Trump rally was build the wall. It's been consistent across the country. And again, there are many Latinos. It will probably be about 30% of Latinos that are supporting this idea of, you know, strong border enforcement. I think ultimately it's going to come down to a couple of things. It's not in a vacuum. Donald Trump will look like he's pro-enforcement. Hillary Clinton will look like she's softer on the borders. Donald Trump is taking a strong stance against amnesty. Hillary Clinton will look like she's amnesty for everyone. You know, and now it's going to come down to tone. If Trump can ease the tone and be more inclusive, he has a stronger chance among individuals who are just as frustrated with a porous U.S.-Mexico border.
But how does he do that at this point? Because he's taken such a hard stance up until now.
You know, it's interesting because I think there are many Latinos who don't really think he's going to build a wall. They think it's just kind of rhetoric for the campaign, red meat, so to speak. This has been going on since the Minutemen and since the 2008 campaign. It goes back even further. But important thing to keep in mind, every major immigration reform in this country that has been compassionate to immigrants has happened under Republican leadership. It does not happen under Democrats, and that's for the last 3 decades. So there is a compromise that could take place, just politically, if Donald Trump has the political capital and the chops and the desire to do it. I think a lot of Latinos who've been in the movement and care about immigration know that they've been very disappointed by the Democrats. What they do not have tolerance for on the left or the right, whatever your ideology, is somebody who is tone deaf to a pro-immigrant message, somebody that sounds like they're dehumanizing the plight of undocumented immigrants and is making fun of them, or really sounds as if it's a bigot or borderlines on nativism. There's absolutely no tolerance for that. So it really is about the message, the team, and the infrastructure Trump has moving forward.
Leslie Sanchez in Los Angeles, thanks for your time tonight.